DeLynn, I got a question for you this week.
Yes.
Are you getting all of the property tax exemptions that you're entitled to on your home?
D, all of the above. Are you?
Hello, everybody. My name is Barry Horvath, and this is Moving Forward TV with your local market update.
And I am DeLynn Gaston. Thank you so much for joining us today. In today's show, ta-da! As you can see, we have a guest joining us. Yay!
Yay! How do we get a guest on the show?
I don't know. We paid him.
No.
Oh, don't say that. That's
Don't say this.
We
This is a
bribed 'em.
non-paid, voluntary, strictly voluntary. So actually this week we're excited because we have Mr. Gary Joyner, who is our Pasco County property appraiser, and we're actually honored to have you on the show this
It's
week.
Yeah,
great
we
to be
are.
here.
Yeah, so actually I've known Gary for some time. You know that Gary is a lifelong resident of Florida. He's actually worked for our county now for 34 years. And
Started when he was 12.
yeah, he
Feel like
did.
it.
I think he was 5. Be
Yeah.
nice, be nice. And he's actually been our property appraiser now for the last 3 years. So it's really good. I know he's a graduate of Gulf High. He was back when we had tracks.
We did have tracks.
Do you remember that?
4515s.
4515. So
Oh.
those of you who are lifelong Pasco County
Yes.
residents will remember that. Like myself.
And probably went to school with him.
Yes, they did. So what happened was we went to school for 45 days and we got off for 15. Now, Gary doesn't remember what track he was on, but I was on track D. We were the cool kids. And track D, you actually were the, track A and track D were the best because you actually got off the 2 weeks in the summer, backed up to your 15 days off. So you got 5 weeks off in the summer. The schools were year round. So it's
And we
pretty
even
cool.
had split sessions.
Nice to know that.
did have split
Go in
sessions.
the morning, go in the afternoon.
Yeah, because there was only 2 schools. You either went to Hudson or you went to
Gulf.
Gulf.
That's all we
That
had.
was it. Yeah,
That's it.
I went to Ritchie.
I did go to Ritchie.
And then I
went
went-
to Ritchie and Schrader.
Really? You want to hear my track record? We'll get back to you later. This is our show. Ritchie Elementary, Cypress Elementary, Schrader Elementary, Bayonet Point Middle School, Ridgewood, which was a middle
I
school.
went to Ridgewood the first year it opened.
And then Hudson High School.
Y'all
So-
taking notes out there because this is the important stuff.
This is
apparently.
really, you're going to learn something about the history of Pasco right now. No, but actually we have a lot of great information this week we're going to talk about on exemptions, portability. Where do you want to start? What do you want to start with?
I think
I know you
we
have
should-
questions.
I want to start with exemptions. I think a lot of people, and thank you so much, Gary, for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here. So I think a lot of people get very confused with the exemption. So a couple of things I have. First of all, I want if you could touch on the difference between ad valorem and non-ad valorem, because people don't realize they see the one tax bill and they don't see underneath that part, you have this little thing called non-ad valorem. So maybe the differences of those, and then what the exemptions apply to.
Okay. The difference between an ad valorem and not an ad valorem. And if you look at when you get your tax bill in the mail from the tax collector's office, you're going to see a large section at the top where everybody gets a little piece of the pie, from the school board, mosquito control, Swift Mud, the county, capital improvement. So you see all those numbers, and those fluctuate. And you're also going to see over there where you have your millage rate, and then a total with your exemptions, and then how much your tax bill is. Non-ad valorems don't work that way. Non-ad valorems are a flat fee. The county commission votes on a resolution where it's going to be anywhere from $78, say, for stormwater or street lighting, and everybody gets those. Now, different non-ad valorem, we probably have 58, and probably more than that now, CDD fees. You'll see a CDD as a non-ad valorem.
Those are
So
exciting.
that's where those go. Is they're
going to go into
CDDs
non-ad
go in the
valorem because those are
non-ad
they're a fixed rate. Your stormwater is a fixed rate. Your street lighting is a fixed rate. Those don't fluctuate from year to year unless the commission votes to raise them or lower them.
And those are based on what, if I can ask? Because I've seen some of them at $162, some of them at $187.
Most of them are going to depend on the size of your lot and if you have
Okay.
more than one lot.
Okay,
So they'll add them in that way.
okay.
So when people get that tax bill, doesn't it come from that guy right there?
No, unfortunately,
They don't.
We translate that information to them. They
And
actually
then-
print them and collect it.
And it comes from the
So
tax
they're the
collector.
translator.
Right.
Tax collector.
The tax
Well,
collector.
you know, we use a different thing. We use all of the counties, all these municipalities, the city of Newport Richey, Port Richey, you know, Zephyr Hills State City,
Right.
they all give us their information. And we compile all that as part of the tax roll.
Right.
We set the values, give the exemptions, take all of that information that comes from the different counties. We actually send it to the Department of Revenue for them to approve it. They have to sign back and say, yes, you've done the right thing, the right numbers are in there. And then, once that's certified from the Department of Revenue, we get the okay, the stamp
The
of
Department
approval.
of Revenue for the county or for the
State
state?
of Florida.
For the state.
They do it for
Okay.
every county.
Okay.
You have to send it to them, your tax roll to it. They go through everything with a fine tooth comb. If they don't like what they see, they send it back and ask us to redo it. Knock on wood, my 3 years there, they've never sent it back. They've approved it the first time. But once they approve it and certify that roll, and I have to sign off that says I have a certified roll from the Department of Revenue, at that point, we can send it to the tax collector for them to print the bills and get them mailed out.
So just so I'm straight, you or your team
Yes, great
go out
team.
and establish the value on a property.
What we do is we use
How does that
permits.
work? Okay.
So the county, we get permits every month from the county that's been issued, whether it be for a screen room or a new construction, a house or commercial, a pool. We take all of those and we go out and make sure the pool was put in or make sure that house is where it needs to be. We measure the outside. We don't go through them and make sure they have tile, they have
You're
wood.
not looking at my granite?
We're not looking at your granite. We're not looking at all your marble tubs and showers you have, Barry. We know you do, but hey. So we look at all of those things and compile it and start our tax roll. And that's where it starts. Now, you also have, you say, an existing house that's been there for 30 years. By statute, you have 55 months to go out and recheck that house. Have they added anything? Unfortunately, things get built without permits.
No.
I hate to say it, but yes, it does happen. So we go out and recheck those. But my policy since I've taken office is we do them between 24 and 30 months. Because me, almost 6 years, a lot of things can happen in that time. So let's cut that in half. Staff is keeping up with it. We call them rechecks. They're get out and walk a subdivision. They may park there. You may see one of our trucks parked at the beginning of a subdivision, and you're going to see a guy with a clipboard and a big tablet, going through what his role is today and checking these houses or checking permits and things like that.
Interesting. So I want to ask a question
Yes.
about that, because I love the valuation thing, because most of our followers out there are home buyers
Okay.
and realtors, real estate professionals. And they look at the tax roll and they're like, oh, it's only assessed at $85,000.
Right. Why are they selling it to me for $185,000?
Yeah, so
we get that a lot.
What we do is, just because someone pays a certain dollar amount for a house doesn't mean we're going to tax them on that. We're going to look at comps in the area. Take the same size house, take the same size lot. Did it have a pool? Did it have a fireplace? And compare all those things. If it's missing all of those, and this one's on a corner lot and has all those, and this one's down the street somewhere and doesn't have them, they're not going to, you can have a differentiation of values. Now, we do get a lot of calls, and this will lead into, I think, something else we wanted to talk about, is somebody will call me and say, hey, why is my neighbor, we have the same house, same size
Yes.
lot, everything, why is his tax bill so much lower than mine? Why is his value so much lower than mine? Well, the first question is, when did you buy the house? I just moved in about 6 months ago. Well, that's our indicator right there to go back and look real quick and say, okay, the person you bought it from had the house 10 years. Your next door neighbor's been there 10 or 12 years. So they have the Save Our Homes cap, and they have the portability and things like that. So that's the first thing we explain to them is this is why your value is different than theirs. And we'll go a little farther. And yes, if you really look at the number, you'll see their taxable value is one number, but the assessed value is another number. So they're more comparable. And as this individual goes and stays 10 years, he will notice a difference also. But that's some of the big questions we get is, why is my neighbor so much cheaper? And then, once we go through and explain that.
And from a lending standpoint for us and our realtor professionals that watch, that tax bill for us is important because their tax bill, their current tax bill
Right.
is based, that's going to tell us what they qualify for as far as a home loan on a
Right.
mortgage side.
Right.
And it's a big part. So it's a lot of guessing for us until people actually identify a property. And they're going to pay, when we qualify them, we base it on the current tax bill that you have posted.
Right.
Even though they may lose that next year.
They may lose that.
And a lot of real estate professionals aren't aware that there may, they say, well, it's not homesteaded, so their tax bill is going to go down. I mean, we've had this
Yeah.
conversation.
We have.
Frequently.
Yeah, the tax bill is not necessarily going to go down just because they don't have it homestead.
Unfortunately, it's not the gospel. But the big thing is the biggest thing we see is how long has that individual been in the home?
Right.
Right.
If they've only been in it a year and maybe they're flipping it or something like that, you're not going to notice a great big difference. If they've been in that home 20 years or 25 years, oh my gosh, you're going to see such a difference.
Yes.
That we have folks call us all the time and say, my tax bill quadrupled or it tripled. I can't afford my house anymore. Nobody told me this. And they're like, I looked at your website and it said it was only this, and now it's this. Why'd you do this to us? So,
You're mean.
well, we hear a lot worse than that.
Yeah, I bet. So that cap, does it only apply to a homesteaded property? Or
Only
does,
a homestead.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be a homesteaded piece of property,
So an investment property has no cap.
10%.
So their cap is different.
If it's a rental property or a commercial, it's 10%.
Okay.
No, we're not going to go out and hit anybody 10%. Now, if that house all of a sudden it's been sitting vacant for a while or somebody's using it as a rental and things like that, yeah, they're going to go up a little bit more. What we do is there's what they call a Save Our Homes cap. We call it SOH. It's our Save Our Homes cap. The law was passed back in 2008. Just last year, its 10-year anniversary came up. The legislature said we can put it out there and vote on it again. Do we stop it or does it go eternally? Luckily, we voted to take it eternally. And the other amendment that was on there was for commercial to take the 10% off and do away with it altogether. I think both of those should have passed the way they were. I think the 10% cap needs to stay. Because the last thing you want to do...
So the 10% cap is gone now?
No, it stayed.
It did
It
stay.
did
And I'm
stay.
glad it
Okay.
did stay. From our standpoint, I'm glad it did. Because the last thing you want to do is go out there and take a mom and pop business that's been established, they're there, and all of a sudden, they've had this business for 20 years, they've got a little cap built up, they can afford their taxes.
Sure.
And January 1st, I would have had to go in there and strip that away, and it goes to market value. And who knows what their tax bill
Right.
would have been. And
That
can
could
they even
put
stay in
business
business?
out. Right. Wow.
So I think it would have hurt the economy. I really do. I'm glad the 3% stayed. The Save Our Homes cap is a maximum of 3% that we can go up in taxable value a year.
So the value can only go up 3%. That doesn't mean your tax bill can only go up 3%.
The tax bill the taxable value can go up as much as it needs to be.
Okay.
If everybody in your neighborhood, you got a great deal in your house 10 years ago and everybody around you is selling and they're going up $100,000 from what you paid, yours is going to creep up.
Okay.
Doesn't mean your taxable value is going to creep up, but your market value will.
Okay.
And that's where your cap comes in, your portability cap.
Okay.
The only thing we do is set values and set exemptions. We don't set your millage rate. That's by the county commission.
Okay.
So, you may have the same value this year, maybe a $500 difference that you have next year, and your tax bill went up $200.
Right.
That's because the commission either raised or lowered the millage rate.
Okay. Are they mandated? I mean, I know that's not your job.
There is a cap that they can only go to.
Right. Has the millage rate been going up in Pasco
They've
County?
been keeping
through
it
there?
down.
Yes.
They have been keeping it down. And last year's tax roll, we surpassed 2008's numbers
Okay.
as far as taxable value. But yet, if you go back and look in 2008, what if somebody was paying for taxes on a home of $250 and look at it today, they're not even close. We're not trying to tax anybody out of the house.
But we have a lot more homes.
We
now
have a
in the
lot more,
county.
and that's one thing we've worked on really hard is to go out and pick up the homes that weren't maybe being assessed the right way, or go out and get all those commercial and work on staff, get those permits. Try not to miss any. Unfortunately, maybe sometimes we don't get them all or we miss them, but that's what we have. Higher levels for us to go back out and say, hey, go look at this subdivision,
Right.
and why do we have Homestead on all these houses, but we're missing this one in the middle and we still have it as a vacant lot? You need to go check it. And there'll be a house there, we go back and get it. So yeah, that's part that it does, because every house we miss is money the county's not getting.
And it's got to come from somewhere.
And it all goes to the bottom line for the county anyway, to
Absolutely.
help us who live in the
Absolutely.
county.
Yeah.
So
And I think
let's back up real quick if we can to the exemptions and stuff. So let's talk about, so everyone knows about the two exemptions that you get, the homestead exemptions, the 225. wanted and talk
So
about the other ones?
225,000.
225,000.
Not
sorry.
225.
225.
Yeah, because I'm feeling tax-free right now.
Oh, no, we'll make sure you're not.
Thanks for being on the show. Gotta go.
But no, you have your 225,000 exemptions, and what you kind of do too
And why is there 225s? Explain how that
what
works.
you don't want to do is tax somebody on their first 50,000.
Okay.
So you're trying to give them a little bit of a break. You hit them on the first 25, give a little bit of break till you get to the 50, and then go from the 50.
So essentially, somebody with a $50,000 house doesn't get no tax.
Well, they could. Well, they will have a very small one.
Right.
If you have somebody that, say, has a $80,000 house, it's going to be a whole lot smaller because you're hitting that second 25.
Okay.
So, yes, they're going to have a small one. Ad valorems, an exemption does not take away your non-ad valorems.
Gotcha.
Non-ad valorems
You can't
stay no
avoid
matter
those.
what.
Okay.
No matter what.
Which is the smaller one.
The smaller.
Unless you have a CDD in
There
there.
are so many exemptions out there, and the state is working harder to get some more. We wish they would raise a few of them up. You have your 225s for your homestead. We also have a widower and widowers. Unfortunately, it's only $500. I wish it was in the $5,000 range.
Is that a $500 credit, or is that $500
Credit.
off? So
Only
they
a
get
credit.
a $500 credit.
And unfortunately, it works out to be about $10.
So it's $500 credit off of the taxable value.
Right. So
Got it.
it's not where we want it, you know, as a
Right.
property appraiser association. Since I've been there, we fought to get it up to 5,000. But the state ran the numbers last year, and to up it to 5,000, it's like $78 million statewide that counties would be losing. I still think in today's economy, at least here in Pasco, we'd still be okay. Because we do have a lot of retirees. They don't live here
Right.
full-time. They don't have homestead. In order to qualify for these other exemptions, you have to qualify for the homestead. You have to be a permanent resident of Florida. You can't just buy a house down here and get these exemptions for free. We have a widow and widowers. We have a blind. If you're blind or a quadriplegic, we have an exemption for that. We have a military exemption, a disabled military exemption. It can be all the way up to 100%.
No taxes.
No taxes, except
Wow.
your non-ad valorems.
Right.
Those, unfortunately, are not exempt from anything. So, yes, we have, I wish I had the numbers. I think we're probably at a couple of hundred right now in the county that are totally
some people don't know
exempt.
that. They have no idea that there's other exemptions that possibly they qualify for.
Absolutely. We try to push them as hard as we can. You know,
They can find information about this on the website.
absolutely.
Or
It's
call
on
in
the
your
websites.
office, right?
We have a couple of places we have exemptions. Click on it. All of them are there.
And you don't need to pay a third-party company to
Oh,
help you
gosh,
find
no,
these?
please don't pay anyone. Please don't pay
Yes.
anybody to do this
Just
for you.
call your office,
Call
right?
us.
And you'll let them know.
I tell you, and we have had some homebound folks that couldn't get out. I'll send staff out, sign the forms for you. So if you can't come in, please don't think you can't get your exemption.
Yeah, I'm at work a lot.
And I don't know about that.
No.
But we will send folks. We'll send
I'm
staff
sitting
out
there
to the
trying
half.
to get something out of them.
I am not. You know, we're going to do everything we can to make sure you get that exemption. So yes, we will send staff out
Cool.
to your house or wherever
Nice.
needs to be done.
Nice.
I tried.
That's why we
yeah, I
love
know.
him.
So, but there are so many exemptions now. I will tell you this: if you look at the tax bill, you'll see your 25s, 225,000s, and you may see a 500 or another 5,000. We don't tell you what those are for a reason. So some people will call and say, "Hey, you don't have my widow's or widower's exemption on there." Yes, we do. The 500's there, but we don't list what it is, and I don't list it for a reason. I don't want the general public. I don't want scammers calling Miss Smith
Right.
down there that's
No.
85 years old and trying
No,
to sell her
she's a
something she
widow.
doesn't need, knowing that she's a widow.
Oh,
Right.
We
good
don't do it.
point.
Yeah.
So there are different $500.
Do all counties do that?
I can't speak for others,
Okay.
That's
but I
very
can tell you
nice,
here,
yeah.
we don't want that.
Right.
That's the last thing I want to do is do that. So
Very good.
You know, sometimes too, we pull certain county records, and you can't see certain properties, like certain public officials. Who's protected in
police.
who's
that?
protected at? Mostly firefighters, police, judges,
Okay.
mostly law enforcement.
For good reason.
retired
For good reason.
for good reasons, or
Right.
retired.
Okay.
Elected officials have that option.
Right.
Look, I don't do it.
Right.
They're going to find you if they want to find you anyways.
Sure.
So elected
Sure, I know where you
official,
live.
law enforcement, I get that 100%.
But that's
They
another
should be protected.
that's another good point that we should bring up to everyone, that if you are in law
Please,
enforcement or anything like that,
you just
contact
need
his
something, we'll
office.
get it, the simple form, we can get you exempted, we'll exempt it, and within 2
Basically,
minutes
so
you're
that
exempt.
they can't find where your address is.
What we don't even do is list the property, and you know that from going on the website. We don't even put parcel information or an ad. We put nothing on there.
Right, you don't.
I'd rather you have
Can't
to
even
call
get it
the
come up.
office or email us and say, hey, I can't find this property, why not?
Yes.
And at that point, all we're going to do is tell you it's a confidential
Right.
piece of property. Only the homeowner can give you that, or the property owner can give you that information.
Good for realtors to know as well, so when we're looking up somebody's property or
Nope,
whatever.
He just had his website up there. so.
Sometimes,
I mean, we can give you information about it, I mean, taxable value, things like that, but that's as much as you're going to get.
right. So just so that we know, it protects them, so we can't get the information. We need the information, so we're going to be calling your office or whatever. So we can get it that way?
Yes.
So a great selling tool to me, and I just learned this at our lunch and learn that Gary was kind enough to come visit, was portability and moving from, say, Miami or Tallahassee, anywhere in the state, they come here. I mean, you have portability statewide, right? How does that work? To explain how that works.
What a portability is we were talking about these houses that somebody's been in for 20 years, and their tax bill has been cheap, and it stays cheap so they can afford to stay there. Now, it's time to move. The kids have all moved out, down to a big house by yourself, and you want to move out. So what we do is, you've been in the house 20 years. You'll see your taxable value, say, is $100,000, but your market value may be $300,000. We'll say it's 300. We'll just do an even number. So that's what we call portability. That's a cap. That's kept you in that house for all those years. That's $200,000. So now you go and buy another home, and you apply for a homestead on that. Maybe you downsize and it's not that big house anymore, or maybe it's down to a $200,000 house. We're going to take that cap coming from your home you're moving from and put that on there and take it right off. We're going to leave the market value where it's at, but your taxable value is going to be dropped by
Nice.
your portability. So you can still afford to stay in that house and not unfortunately have that big number that stays up there, now I can't afford my taxes. The downside of that is now the person that's moving into that house, that's why they're calling and complaining and say, what happened? Instead of paying a little tax bill, now I've got a great big one. Well, their portability and cap will build up over the years they stay there. But you made a good point. We have, we probably did 14,000 new homestead applications last year. Some are first-time home buyers, some are just buying another house in the, we're moving from one neighborhood to the other. But a lot of them are coming from other counties.
Because Pasco's the place to be.
Because Pasco is where to be.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Hillsborough is huge. Hillsborough and Pinellas, we get the most from portability. So what we'll do is when we fill out your homestead application, whether you do it online or you come in the office, we're going to look at that old address and ask you some questions. We're going to automatically go to that county and say, okay, we need if they had homestead, and you had to have homestead on it to get your portability, what was their assessed value? What was the taxable value? Send it to us in writing. They send it back to us, and we automatically apply it for you. It's not a separate form you have to do. It's not a separate application.
Nice.
We automatically go out and do it. We do it every day with different counties. So we're constantly in contact with them. Some reply really quick. Sometimes we have to ask 2 or 3 times. But the majority of the surrounding counties around us are extremely quick in getting it back to us, so we go ahead and apply it real quick.
And you had said that not all counties do this. They don't allow it to go
Some don't
across
push
county
it.
lines.
Some don't push it like they should. They really don't. And I think it's like you said, I think it's a huge selling point. And I think it's something to go back and tell somebody, hey, look, you can afford to get in that house because your tax bill is going to be about the same amount.
Yeah, because you're coming here to Pasco, and we're friendly about bringing people to the area. Let's face
Absolutely.
it. You know what? That portability thing, how does that work in divorce situations? Because does that apply? Who gets it? Like,
The reason you sold the house is divorce. Got to sell the house. You're going to sell the house, split the proceedings. I get half, you get half. We're going to split it down.
so the
when you apply,
portability is split just like everything else.
so when you go to apply for homestead, we're going to give you half because we're going to go back and verify it was in both names. You had
Okay.
both qualifiers. You were the other qualifier. We're going to go back and look. You applied for homestead on your new house. You're going to get half. We're going to split that portability.
So both names have to be on that.
You have to be a
original
qualifier
deed?
and be on there, yes. Now, just because maybe you were married, but you didn't own part of the house, you weren't
Right.
on it, we're not going to go back. You're going to get the full.
So there's a benefit to having.
There is.
Okay.
And I will say this, when you apply for homestead, let both spouses do it.
Right.
Because what you'll find is, and we've had it in the past where someone dies and the wife never qualified for Homestead. She never applied.
Right.
Well, so now the Homestead comes off, so does the Portability. It's lost.
Wow.
So she starts all over. It's just like a home, just like a new buyer.
If both of them were on the
They have
property,
to be a
though?
qualifier. You have to be a qualifier.
Wow.
So we run into that a lot where the husband goes in and does it. You know, I'll take care of everything. 20 years later, husband dies. Wife never qualified for Homestead.
So that's another thing people should check.
Yes, because
Crazy.
you can do it
Now, how-
today. Even
I
if
was
you've
gonna
owned
say,
a
how
house
do they
20 years,
check
go
that?
on in.
Yeah, how do they check that?
You know
Just
what?
go on the website, or?
We're gonna have a lot of questions
I
about
know.
this. So you know what? We're gonna put
And we're
an
out of time.
We're gonna put the email. Yeah, we're gonna need you back on the show.
Absolutely.
We're gonna put an email address right here that you can email us your questions, because I think we're gonna bring Gary back up
That's
on
a
the
great
show
idea.
because there's a
'Cause I have
lot of
lots of
information.
questions.
Our real estate professionals need this information. Our
Absolutely.
buyers need this
Right.
information.
And our
Absolutely.
sellers need this
Yes,
information.
they do. Actually, they do.
sellers.
Yes,
The
they
sellers
do.
need it just as much as the buyer does.
And I
do.
got to tell you, we have a great county.
I
And
know.
we
I totally
really
love our
do.
county.
I love it. I love Pasco. So let's talk about upcoming dates real quick in the community.
Lunch and Learn.
Lunch and Learn coming up.
February 11th. So at Carrabba's, as usual, all of you who usually join us and those who don't, please join us. Carrabba's on February 11th. It's at lunch, and it's always a great topic.
It's a great lunch, too.
Thank you.
You like that.
And then the other thing is we have
we have our lightning bus trip coming up for hockey. So
for
that's on
WPBA,
February 13th. So
our West Pasco Business Association charity of choice. So if you can go on the website, wpba.biz or wpba.rocks, and get your tickets, it's always a great time. Everybody always loves it. And it's February 13th.
and you're supporting a great local charity.
That's
So,
right.
Gary, thank you so much for joining us. We got to get
Absolutely.
you back on.
I can't wait.
Thank you.
A lot of great information
I know.
this week.
I'm going
There's
to
so
be
much-
jotting down questions. You guys jot down questions
so,
too.
hey, like our show, share it. We're all over social media, and
Thank you, everyone, for watching. We are Today and Every Day.
Moving forward.
have a great week, everybody. See you next week.